Alright. I just got back recently. I did record a previous video, but the camera fucked up, so now I have to re-record it. I hope I can remember all that I said and not fuck up any of my facts. I was at the big meeting. It was a commander's get-together sort of thing. A bunch of leaders from the Jackals from within the deep well came out to inspect and talk to the regular troops in the field. So I spoke to a bunch of the higher-ups. One thing that's very different about the Jackals compared to human society is the higher you go in Jackal society, the more simply you live. The less accoutrements, the less adornments you have. You actually seek to minimalize as much as possible in your life. They do this because they're very nomadic, and they're also called constantly into battles or situations where they have to engineer stuff with very little materials. So they want to be as used to living on absolutely nothing as possible. The commander I spoke to the longest, he was there for a little bit before he spoke to me, but he was very enthused about doing it. And what he had in his life was he had a bracelet for being married. They wear one on their left arm for when they're married, and the females will do it on their right. And on his, where a jackal would normally have two separate ones for his situation, one to represent spouses that had died, and one for spouses that were alive. He had two previous spouses that had passed, and he just took the same bracelet and moved over for the next wife, and then those were both crossed out, the two wives that were dead, and then he just had another one for the new wife. And he was very simple, he was very plain, he spoke openly, he smiled a lot. He kept his words as concise as possible. One of his sons was actually there at the meeting and is directly under Larry, and they hadn't seen each other for like 10 years. And they said hello, they spoke each other's names, they ate food off of each other's plates. They didn't say a fucking thing else the entire time, alright? And I spoke to this man for 3 solid hours. Okay? Do you understand? Like, something important just happened to me. Like, other commanders wanted to talk to me, but he told them, essentially, in plain Jackal, to go fuck themselves. He was busy. Which was hilarious to see in action. Because they were higher ranked than him, and he was a specialist, and that's why we were speaking, because I'm being pushed into the specialist line because of my trip to the gate, to the forest. Now I want to describe to you what this man has, so you can get a really good idea about how simply their leaders live. Like, his equipment is as follows, and is nothing more than this. He has a hunting knife and a small knife. The small knife is what we would call a table knife. But it's more diverse in its uses. It's for carving wood, and for carving bone, and for carving flesh. You use it for a bunch of different things. But it's small work. And he has a hand axe for chopping wood and faces, as he puts it. Very, very good small joke. And he had a pistol with him as well, in case he ran afoul of any human forces. He could dispatch them with their own weaponry. He was actually very proud of that, that he had a full clip for it, and I believe it was a Beretta. I'm not very familiar with pistols, but he spoke about it for a good 30 seconds, so I paid attention a little bit. He had a shield and a backpack. Shields are very common in the deep well. There's very, very destructive weather, and the shield can actually be used to create a roof. And he actually, him and his current wife, had created a way to... Their backpacks weren't like our kinds of backpack. It was a very rough, weather-proof canvas, and it was actually, there was loops on it and stuff so that poles could be set into their shields. They could be linked, the shields could be linked, and then the cloths of their backpacks wrapped, one draped over the two shields and another one around the bottom, and they could have a small shelter. They had rations for travel, and water purifiers and canteens, and they didn't have a fucking thing else. That was it. Those were their possessions, except for the clothes on their backs. And these are probably, you know, some of the highest up people in the entire Jackal orchestrated culture. That's how they live. That's who they are. That's what they are. You know, and him and his wife didn't speak at all. They smiled at each other. They nuzzled each other. They kissed once during the entire night, but it was just, you know, like a cheek kiss from him to her. She was cooking a lot of food, I think. She kept to herself. A lot of Jackal women are like that. They live a hard life, so it's just the way they are. So apparently, what I did at the pond, I did that. That was like what this guy does as a specialist. I was doing, and I was doing it way better than he's ever done it, and that's why he needed to speak to me, because Larry saw the video and then immediately spoke to him about it, because they've been longtime friends, fought in a bunch of battles, built a lot of engineering feats together, that sort of thing. And like, it overwhelmed me. I didn't know I was doing anything, you know. I held it for a very long time, he said. It didn't feel like anything. Maybe when we got back to the car, I was extra exhausted. I took a nap on the ride home. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it. You know, I just hadn't been out in the woods for a while. So we had like a 3-hour-long conversation about what I had done and procedures of practice, ways to meditate, and to establish a connection with what was going on in me. And then afterwards, Larry took me aside. He gave me a bunch of reading material and a bunch of diagrams and just unbelievable, confusing shit that I can't even describe to you because it's classified. But I can go through the process of myself. You know, I can establish what I'm doing. I can show you my practice. I've done it 2 or 3 times today. It's super exhausting. Like, I had a bunch of sleep and I don't feel rested because of the 3 successful events that I had out of 7 or 8. So I'm going to try it again on camera, and hopefully I'll be able to get like a few seconds of it. But I haven't been able to do more than that. And like, I could feel it now. I could feel it in me even when I'm not doing it. I could feel that connection. Because this commander, whose name I never learned, he never once spoke his name. When he and his son said it, they said it very quiet, and I wasn't really paying attention. But I'm aware of that exchange in Jackal culture, so I know what happened. Okay, so take those off. Shit, I gotta not. I'll be right back. Had to turn off the computer and the air conditioner. Those noises bother me quite a bit when I'm doing this. Alright, Alright, so what you're gonna see is me doing a breathing exercise that should help. My previous attempts failed. I've recorded several attempts. I'm probably gonna go to sleep after this because I got almost nothing left. So I'm gonna try to do it, and then you're gonna see whether I actually do it this time or fail. Hopefully the camera won't fuck up. It's very difficult to tune the camera while doing this. I have no idea how I did it at the pond. It doesn't make any sense to me. It just sort of happened. Alright. Bit of a success. I heard a lot. I'm gonna go. What's wrong with... I gotta do stuff with the camera. One sec. Ugh, the camera shut off. I was speaking too long. It's a DSLR, so it just does that. I was in the all the different energy fields, and like my body was just reacting. So of course it started doing something, and I didn't know I was doing it, so I did it better than I could ever possibly do it now, because, you know, like, I'm thinking about it, and people have thrown all this information at me, and now I'm trying to think about that and do it, and it's just, it's so fucking difficult. I'm not even sure if I did it, you know, because I have to have my eyes open to see it. It does have an effect on me. When I'm doing it, I can see that it's happening. And there is a use for this. There is a clear and evident use for this. I have to go. I was like, I need to take several thousand naps right now. I'm so exhausted. It took so much out of me. I feel like I just climbed a mountain and now I just want to fall off a cliff to my death. It's just, it's not good. Alright, stay safe out there. Don't do what I do. What I do is really fucked up, and it's not a good idea. Have a good day.